was on my way to the gym. I feel like my period is coming. We've been trying to get pregnant for months after a traumatic miscarriage. I have set a timer, so we'll see what's up. I'm hopeful. It's like every month that I'm not pregnant, I'm so stressed. Like, how do you not feel like a failure, man? It's gonna be a very good or a very bad day, depending on these results. I'm about to pee on a stick. I'm actually feeling really optimistic because my period is late. My heart is racing because I could also be extremely let down. Today is Darian's last day of his OB rotation, and every month that we've been trying to get pregnant, it has been so devastating. But I'm gonna take this test. I'll stop talking. I promise I won't let this ruin my day. I knew it. Oh my gosh. Wait, does it? This has literally been the worst year, but it's gonna end so good. I'm like scared of another miscarriage, but I don't even care. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so excited. Okay. Oh my gosh, we have to tell Darian. He's gonna be so happy.
Peep down my room.
Smell like poop. Are we gonna go to the store and celebrate and tell Daddy?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Darian's literally about to come home. My heart is racing.
I just had great now.
Do you notice anything?
Check her out.
No.
No!
Where to start? I feel like I really needed to just film a YouTube video to explain what has been going on so I can move forward. Some of these things were things I was never going to talk about, but in light of what recently has happened, I feel very open to discuss everything that has been going on. And I know a lot of you on YouTube, you don't follow me on Instagram or TikTok or a podcast. Like, YouTube is the only social media that you have. So that's why I felt like I really needed to update you guys. I have a full podcast where I talk about everything. You can listen to that as well. And I'm now, 2.5 weeks post-surgery, so it's a little bit easier to talk about everything. This has been such a huge life event. I just don't think I can talk about anything else until I have this out in the open, because it's just completely changed everything. And as you can tell in the title, I did have a miscarriage earlier this year, and more recently, I again was pregnant, and it was an ectopic pregnancy, which led to emergency surgery, and I had to lose my right fallopian tube. So now I'm just recovering from that surgery, and there's so much that goes into this, but I will start with the miscarriage. So Darian and I wanted to, again, have more kids. We've been dying to have more kids, but since he's in grad school at CRNA, it is very time consuming for him, me taking care of Vinny, trying to work to help support him through his schooling so we're not coming out with massive school debt. Like, if you have gone to a grad school, a CRNA school, med school, you know what kind of debt we're talking about. We got to a point where we were like, okay, now is a great time to start trying again because you're almost done with school. And we were just so excited to be able to finally add to our family because we've been wanting Vinny to have a sibling for so long, but it just hasn't been. Mentally, we haven't been in a good place, both of us. There's been a lot to manage behind the scenes, and I don't want to share too much for safety reasons. Like, I'm not ever going to say, oh, Darian is gone for the next 3 months. No, he hasn't been home, you guys. Like, that is not safe for me to say that it is Vinny and I only here. We're all alone, but there have been a lot of stints of where Darian is not home for very long periods of times. If you have somebody else who's in the medical field, who does residencies, some of those are very far away. So he is not always home, which leaves Vinny and I by ourselves. So because of a lot of these factors, we have been waiting, and it finally was the perfect time where we were like, okay, school's almost done. By the time we have the baby, like, things should be pretty simmered. You're almost graduating. And then, like, we felt comfortable, and then we're in a place where we were like, we can do this now. So it was very exciting. So we were successful immediately, and I was pregnant, and we were so excited and literally so grateful. And it was just so cool again, and I was very excited to do this journey. And like getting in the mindset of like being pregnant again, being a mom. Of course, I already am a mom. I already have a 3-year-old who's almost 4. I can't believe that. But I was very excited, and when you're pregnant, like you start to think about the future and get so excited about just everything. And it was awesome. I was about 7 weeks when I had a miscarriage, and that was absolutely devastating. We had just come back from a trip and I had started to bleed, and I was like, oh no. You know, you Google and you're like, some bleeding is common in pregnancy. So you're like, okay, well then fast forward to this started happening at night. Fast forward to the morning, and it did not stop. It got worse. I just knew immediately. Darian is far away at a clinical site. He is like an hour and a half away. And so I have Vinny. think I'm going through this. I'm not quite sure. And this is the first time I'm talking about this, which is very, very difficult because for whatever reason, the miscarriage is more traumatic to me. I don't know why. I think it's because I literally feel like it's my fault. I have to remind myself, 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in a miscarriage. Their doctors assure you like these things just happen, but I literally feel so much guilt. I don't know why. I just still do. It's very, very difficult. Anyway, so I think I'm going through this. Vinny's awake. I'm trying to call the doctor. It was very traumatic to have to call multiple people and try to get hold of the right person. Our insurance is very complicated because it's through Darian's school. His school is an hour and 15 minutes away. So I'm trying to get in touch with my PCP, but it's early. Nobody's in office. I'm trying to just figure out, okay, if I don't call her, is there like a nurse's line? And having to continuously explain what is happening. Very, very traumatic for me to have to say multiple times, I'm having a miscarriage, to not know where to turn, who to talk to. I felt so helpless, and I was just like, please, somebody, God, help me. Like, I'm so scared. I'm so emotional. Everything is just horrible at this instance. I finally am able to make arrangements for Vinny, take myself into the ER. Again, when I check in, I have to explain what's going on. Then I go to triage. Again, I have to explain what's going on. Then I'm in the ER. I have to explain what's going on to multiple doctors. And one of the doctors was like, oh, we don't know if that's what's happening. And I'm like, I know this is what's happening. Like, can you just give it to me straight? Like, I'm not dumb. I know this is happening. So much tissue and just, it's not a good scene. And I was just alone for so long in the ER. And it's scary. And I felt so alone. So I go on my phone and I download Hulu and I start watching Twilight because literally the ER takes forever, which again, Darian's in the medical field, it's not complaining, but it takes a long time. There's lots of labs that need to be run. So I'm watching Twilight and I tell Darian, and he just literally immediately leaves his residency clinical site and is literally driving an hour and a half, as fast as he can. And again, I just feel so guilty because, I'm having to tell him this. And I'm sorry, it's ours together. So it's just very sad. Finally, I'm able to go back for an ultrasound. They do ultrasounds 2 ways, which is a pain. The results were there was no pregnancy in there, which then the doctor comes in and is like, yeah, well, we didn't find a baby in there, but, your HCG levels or whatever are still high. So there's a chance. I'm like, dude, stop telling me that there's a chance. Can you just... I know I had a miscarriage. Just say it. I was kind of frustrated at that. Stop giving me hope when I know what happened. Let me just grieve and get it out. But I do appreciate, he was trying to be kind, Again, there was no pregnancy found. So he's like, yeah, we need to keep testing your HCG level to make sure, it goes back down to a certain level, before you start trying again. And I asked if anything else needed to happen because, they said you should be fine, just keep checking your HCG level. And I was like, I don't need an ultrasound to make sure everything's clean out of my uterus and whatever, TMI. So 3 or 4 days later, can I just tell you how excruciating painful it was after the miscarriage, my uterus contracting and shrinking? Honestly, that is some of the most painful days I've ever had. It was way worse than labor. It was so painful. I could not get out of bed and I could not move for a whole week. And then the second week I was just trying to get better. And I felt so bad for Vinny. Again, Darian is away in clinicals. He feels so guilty for being away, but literally he's in the middle of school. He can't do anything about it. This was so traumatic. I didn't want to tell anybody. So literally didn't ask for help or anything. Just doing this alone. Trying to make it through this video. It's so difficult. Luckily I had a Wii in the closet and we had a couple of Wii games, so I was playing them with Vinny because that's all I could do. I literally just felt so guilty for having so much TV time and playing Wii, but that's all I could literally do. But it was really fun. I tried to make it fun and I bought lots of Legos. and like painting activities. Like I was trying. The editing this video is literally gonna be horrible. I'm like not gonna be able to edit it at all. This is just literally gonna be so painful, but I really did my best with Vinny, and you know, I couldn't like pick him up or hold him really because everything hurt so bad. And I got like a heating pad and I was just trying to heal, you know, physically and mentally and emotionally. And I felt so bad for Darian. He was entering his OB rotation where like every day he's delivering babies, and it's like this painful reminder. I literally just felt so bad. I feel so guilty even today. Finally, I start feeling a little bit better. I'm able to, you know, resume life and really just try to act like nothing had happened, you know, and passing with friends and online and just everything, just trying to act like everything's okay, but really severely struggling deep inside. I was trying to say that like 4 days after, I'm in so much pain to get my blood drawn, you know, to see if my HCG levels have gone down. So I had to go in to get labs. And again, it is so frustrating. I wish they wrote it on the paper. They're like, what are you in here for? And I have to literally say, I'm checking my HCG levels. I had a miscarriage. And like, saying those words is so difficult. And it's literally been months. It was so sweet. The texts were like giving me hugs because like literally I lost it. They were so nice. One of them, again, like the one that took my blood for my labs, because like my head is down, I'm just crying the whole time, I can't help it, and I'm in so much pain. It was so painful to walk and sit. Gosh. But the tech was like, I've had a miscarriage too, like, it doesn't seem like it's gonna be okay, but it'll be okay. And I was like, thank you. Fast forward, things are fine, healed, like, we were cleared. Again, didn't get an ultrasound or anything, which I thought was a little weird, but nobody, like they didn't say I needed to get one because I had had 2 regular periods. So then we were like, okay, let's try again. We were so excited. We got pregnant. The first month, like we weren't pregnant, and that was really devastating. That's the video clip that you saw. And then the second time we were pregnant again, and I was so excited. And this was at the end of Darian's OB rotation. It was literally the last day. Like he had come home from his OB rotation, which was so excruciating for him. And I just feel so bad having to deliver babies every day and us not be pregnant. Like that would be so difficult. We were successful, we were pregnant, we were so excited, and I told my mom and my dad because I needed somebody else to know if I did have another miscarriage. Like I was like, I need some kind of support with this. And we were just feeling really optimistic about this one and like feeling good. Everything was fine and normal. I started to have some abdominal pain, but it was like cramping, and it was all around. It wasn't like in one general location. It was just like kind of cramping all around. It started off mild, and then like, but literally by noon I'd feel so much better because I thought it was just morning sickness, because with the, you know, a little bit of abdominal discomfort, I also had nausea and vomiting. And then I also had like, I thought I had food poisoning because TMI, but I was going to the bathroom a lot, and it was like just that feeling of like upset stomach. So I was like, oh, do I have food poisoning? I'm calling the nurses line. I did my phone intake. Like I told them all of these symptoms. I'm like, I'm cramping, I have abdominal pain, I am throwing up, and I'm very nauseous. So they gave me some like nausea medicine, which helped. And there were a couple of really bad days. I was like, I'm really sick. And I was like, this is horrible. I guess this is what people talk about with pregnancy. Like my first with Vinny was so easy, didn't have any of those symptoms. And I was like, well, this one must just be different. Maybe I'm having twins, because like the nausea and vomiting was so real. I had an upset stomach, like I just felt horrible. Like I said I'm like, I literally feel like I had a stomach bug, and then it got better. So I was like, okay, nothing to worry about. But I still was on the nurse's line. Like I was calling and checking in because I'm scared of having a miscarriage. So I was like really trying to make sure, you know, everything was going to be okay. That happened for a couple of days. The weekend came, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was a lot better. I still didn't feel 100%. But again, I'm like, people have morning sickness. I'm like Googling all of these symptoms, and I'm like, this seems normal. I'm calling my doctor and letting them know. And they say it's nothing to be worried about. So I'm not going to worry about it. And I had a couple days of relief where it wasn't as bad. So I was like, okay, that's fine. They did have me schedule an ultrasound early. Normally it's 10 weeks, but they wanted me to do one early because I had a miscarriage. And so I scheduled that as soon as I could. Like I wasn't feeling good. So I'm like, oh, we'll find out if something is wrong. That was Monday, October 16th. And Darian luckily had this day off. Like when I tell you divine intervention, it is a miracle Darian had this day off. He does not have Mondays off. So he could come with me to the ultrasound. We were very excited, but in the back of my head, I was very nervous. Again, I'm nervous. Is there going to be even a baby on the ultrasound? Am I going to have another miscarriage? Like, I'm trying to be positive, but in the back of my head, I'm like, man, I wasn't feeling too good, but the doctor said it's okay. And like, maybe we have twins. Like, you just don't know in early pregnancy. It's so scary. We're driving there and literally we see the most beautiful rainbow. I am like sobbing because I'm like, oh, in memory of like our miscarriage, I'm like, everything's going to be okay. Like, I'm very excited to see this ultrasound and just be told everything's going to be fine. We go in, we have the ultrasound, and my heart goes out for ultrasound techs because I know you're not allowed to say anything. Silent. The room is silent. And I start panicking and I'm like, something's wrong. Like, she would at least say, like, when it's about a baby, like, they'd at least say something. To say nothing, I was like, oh no. Very quiet. Leaves the room for a good 15 minutes. Darian's like, no, it was more like 25 minutes. Like, it was a very long time, but I'm just panicking. I knew then something was wrong, and I just look at Darian and I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know what they're gonna say, but like, I'm sorry, obviously something's not right. The tech comes in with the radiologist because they had read the results, and they tell me I had an ectopic pregnancy and that they have to wheel me immediately to the ER. And the second miracle of this is, one, Darian's with me, so I'm not alone. Thank goodness, because miscarriage was very sad because I was alone. The second miracle is that we were in a huge hospital facility where a lot of times when you do these ultrasounds, you're just in a little outpatient clinic. I would have had to take an ambulance, which again is so expensive to take an ambulance, and that would have been even more traumatic to have to go in an ambulance, but they literally just had to wheel me all the way throughout the hospital to the ER. So I got checked into the ER. Everybody, the person who checks me in says, we know you're here for an ectopic pregnancy. And everyone's saying it, and I'm like, okay, at least I don't have to explain why I'm here, which again was very traumatic about the miscarriage. I had to vouch for myself and try to have people believe me that I know what's happening with my body. I got checked into the ER. I'm just very grateful Darian is there. And I was like, what are the freaking chances? I go in for my 7-week ultrasound, and now I have an ectopic pregnancy and I have to get surgery. Because the baby was far enough along and it was healthy enough, it had a heartbeat and it was big enough, I had to have surgery. And to hear that literally broke my heart. Maybe other people feel that guilt and I need to just let it go. It's not my fault. But the ectopic pregnancy, it just didn't make it all the way to the uterus. It just is a, pregnancy in the fallopian tube. So it was almost there, almost implanted in the uterus, but it didn't quite make it. So healthy baby growing outside, and they had to remove it, which was excruciating to hear that it had a heartbeat and was doing well. That was hard. So I had the news with the OB, and the OB was so sweet. Another miracle is that the OB was one of the most amazing and sweet people ever, made me feel so comfortable. She stayed and chatted with me for 45 minutes, if not an hour, as I asked every single question. She let me just cry when she told me the news that I would have to have surgery and have my right fallopian tube removed. She comforted me. She told me that it does not affect fertility. You can still have other children after, which is what Darian and I want so bad. So we were like, oh, okay, like we can, things can go back to normal. We just have to wait a couple months for recovery and we can try again. We were so excited, and it was a pretty straightforward procedure. She talked all about it. Darian had connection with the anesthesia provider, again, because that's what he does. So it was really fun. I felt so comforted. Everybody was so kind. And during a really traumatic time, like, everybody was so kind. Again, I still had a little bit of that abdominal pain, but because it wasn't crazy and the ultrasound didn't show that it had ruptured, still, like, I had significant pain, but it wasn't so much so. Like, I was sitting up, I was talking, I was conversating, I was able to move. They said, okay, you'll be fine. Like, you haven't ruptured yet. So, we're still going to try to get you back as quick as we can because this is an emergency surgery. Like, we don't want it to rupture. And I had to get wheeled all the way from the ER to like the women's surgery place. The whole team was amazing. I am like so grateful for them. Unfortunately, when I went back into surgery, things were a lot worse than they had realized. I had ruptured, and I had over 1 liter of blood sitting in my abdomen, which is really acidic. And so that is probably what was causing a lot of the pain. And they were like, we had no idea you ruptured because your countenance, like, you were not writhing in pain. And when something ruptures and you have 1 liter of blood in your body, you should be screaming in pain. I have an extremely high pain tolerance, extremely high. And they were baffled. And things were a lot worse when they went back into surgery because, again, they were like, what is going on? I have so many pictures that they gave us. My body is filled with blood. I lost over 1 liter. And if you don't know, your body has 5 liters of blood. I lost 20% of my blood was just sitting in me. And what's really scary is when they checked my hemoglobin, it was 12, which is a normal count. So that means that that blood could have been sitting, like, we don't know how long it was sitting in there. And they still don't know. They're like, it could have been a week. It could have been 2 weeks. And like, they were like, you are literally... They're like, you are literally so lucky to be alive right now. We don't understand like how that's even possible. And I was like, oh, that's great news to hear when you wake up from surgery that like I pretty much almost died. That's great news to hear. And I just feel like my body betrayed me by not like really telling me something was seriously wrong. It scared me. And in the process of that, my left fallopian tube was severely damaged. Obviously I have 1 liter of blood, which is super acidic, just absolutely messing it up. And so to hear that news, the surgery took much longer than expected, which then gave Darian a lot of anxiety because he's waiting in the waiting room and just like, what is going on? Why is this taking so long? What's happening? And I just feel so bad for him. Like, that would be so traumatic, like waiting on a loved one. And the doctors were debating to remove or let me keep my left fallopian tube, and I'm so grateful for them advocating for me back there because they knew how bad Darian and I wanted to have kids, so they said we're going to give her a chance. We're going to give the other fallopian tube a chance because it just complicates things so much not having any fallopian tubes. And so I'm grateful. Like, I'm taking recovery extremely seriously because more than anything, I want my left fallopian tube to heal so that things can just be a lot easier and I don't have to undergo a whole nother surgery, a whole nother recovery. Like, that is gonna just be really hard. And I think that that's the hardest part of this is not knowing, not having a straight answer, where if I knew, okay, 4 weeks post-surgery, we're doing a checkup, and then 6 weeks, like you're totally fine and clear to do everything. My hemoglobin recounts were already up. I didn't need any blood during the surgery. So the fact that I lost 1 liter of blood and I already had enough time to rebuild enough blood for my body, that goes to show that that had been sitting in me for a very long time, which that is a miracle in and of itself, that I am okay from that. And they have no, like, it's just scary to hear that. Again, you're like loopy on drugs. They drug you pretty well for anesthesia. And I'm being told all of these things. I'm being shown all of these pictures. And it just like set this paranoia in me where I literally hadn't been able to sleep for weeks. And I had so much anxiety going to sleep because I genuinely felt like if I go to sleep, I'm not going to wake up in the morning. I had so much paranoia. Like, I had ruptured and bursted already. What if it happens again? Am I going to bleed out? My body didn't tell me this. I had no idea. The doctors had no idea. I called this into the nurses and they didn't raise any flags or alarms for the week that that was happening. Like, it's so scary to not know. It's just really difficult. Lots and lots of time grieving the surgery and that trauma and getting back into reality. Now I'm like able to finally grieve the loss of that pregnancy. Not to mention all of the hormones having to return and just so much pain and all my incisions hurt, you know, and it's just a new life. It's a new reality. And thank you guys for being patient with me while I'm trying to get back to it. I am finally feeling hopeful again as my recovery is very slowly progressing. The first week I did not move from the couch. It was very hard for me to even shower. I'd have my mom wash my hair and braid my hair. Which that was so sad. When I got the news, I had to text my mom and I was like, I'm so sorry to give you this news, but I'm in the ER right now and I have an ectopic pregnancy and I need surgery. My mom literally came out immediately. Things are just getting better and recovery is getting better. It's going to be a long road. I'm really hopeful and I just have a feeling that everything's going to be okay. And hearing a lot of your stories has been a boost to me too, to know that literally I'm so sorry you also had to go through this. Anyone who had to go through miscarriage, infertility, just struggling with this, especially as a female, like it makes you feel like a failure. But a lot of you shared, you know, you've had ectopic pregnancies or you know someone who's had them, but they've been able to go on to have kids. So I'm really just hoping I can keep my other fallopian tube and just move forward. Hopefully in a month I can have full answers and can just be back to myself. I am being so easy and patient and I'm grateful for this season of rest. I am so grateful. I am not rushing it. Literally the most important thing I can do right now is to heal. We were sent so many flowers and gifts and truly that has been such a huge help to uplift our spirits and mind and to feel so loved and cared about, especially having to go through the grief and the loss of a miscarriage. It's totally alone, because I think a lot of us just don't talk about it because, you know, it's still early on in the pregnancy, but they happen and they're very traumatic and sad, and we grieve a lot over it. Thank you for letting me share my story. Please be sensitive in the comments. Obviously, this is a very difficult thing to talk about, but I didn't want to leave YouTube out of this because I know a lot of you, this is your only platform. I also now feel like I can fully move on. I don't have to bring this up again. Like, I just am hoping to take some steps forward, hear good news. I'll, you know, obviously let you know when everything is good for me, but thank you for being here and being kind and sweet, and on to bigger and better days. Thank you for your support, your love, anyone who has sent a sweet message and comment, as well as sharing your stories to give me hope and that sense of I can do this and I am strong and I'm going to be able to get through this. So thank you so much. We love you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.